useless, pointless because
Good
it made so much of it.
internet.
Well,
Good day,
there
internet.
was the whole
High internet.
high internet. I think what killed that comics collecting was the when everyone glommed onto the variant covers, and so they came out with 9 different covers. One would be like a foil embossed, one would be like monochrome, and then like I don't know.
Yeah,
You can
they
only
were-
take what's his name? Jeff. I always want to say Lisa Loeb, but Jeff. What's his name?
Jeff Loeb.
Jeff Loeb. Yeah, the guy with the small feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no,
all
you're
I
thinking
remember.
of. You're not thinking of Jeff Loeb. You're thinking
I'm
of the creator of Deadpool.
What's his name?
Rob Liefeld.
Lisa Loeb.
That's it. Liefeld.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think of small feet. It's like
Jeff Loeb is a writer, and
Yes.
At first, I thought you were saying he has small feet. I'm like, oh no, he means.
You're talking about.
Yeah, he draws small feet, tiny feet.
Oh, he does, or he doesn't draw it at all. He just hides it behind the panel.
The most rare comic that nobody can find is let's see, New Adventure
Is
number
the one
26.
inside all of us.
It's from 1938, a long time ago. Captain Jim of the Texas Rangers is the hero of this comic.
Not the
and,
baseball team, the actual
Yeah.
law enforcement arm.
You could be in the
Predates the
millions
baseball.
if you find if you have that 8 or above in the quality ranking. That'll go for millions. So
Wow.
look for that. Look for that. Go check your
I used
box.
to have a book.
Just go around Texas. Wait, I'd say that because it's a Texas Ranger, but frankly, it probably sold better elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I
Go
mean-
around Texas and then realize you're in the wrong state.
That was
You're
the
like,
thing
oh,
with my
nobody
dad.
bought this
He
because it was inaccurate.
saved all his National Geographic because he'd been like subscribing to it
Oh,
like since in his 50s.
everybody saves their National Geographics
Just
from,
like in a-
from his generation.
Now I got to clear out the garage.
Back in the 90s when I worked at Half Price Books, it was like at least twice a day. Someone would bring in their collection of National Geographics and you'd have to let them down easy when you told them the entire
Worth $1.
like 10 years worth of National Geographics were worth 25 cents because we had every single issue that you could easily get on the shelf and they never sold, so we didn't need more. We were just going to recycle them. So sad.
I have
So sad.
Yeah, my dad started getting him in the 50s. And what I found interesting, outside of the fact that the original ones didn't have a photo cover, was watching the ads change through the years. Like, you could see-
no, it's super fun. I do that with Life magazines. I actually have a box of Life magazines I haven't looked at in a long time, but I collected them when I worked at that bookstore for that exact reason. I just loved looking at the ads.
Well, mine are
What's
all
it-
Mad magazines, so they're going to be worth Zippo.
Oh, wait a minute! Aren't like some of the Mad or all of them? Like I thought there were like 1 or 2 Mad magazines.
There
that
are
were-
some, but they're really the old ones, like the 50s, the 40s and 50s.
Back
the
when there
stuff
was
from the
sword.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff I got in the 80s, which I loved. I loved that stuff. It's just worth stuff to me. It's not worth anything.
That's the problem with collectibles. It really depends on the market. I'm trying to unload these 2 pieces of like 19th century, antique furniture that's at my mom's house. And my dad brought it over from the restaurant when he leased it out, and the guy totally renovated the place. But like before, they were like, "Oh yeah," like customers would come. It's like, "Yeah, that's worth like $36,000." I couldn't find someone to take it off my hand for $1,800.
It's always that way. They think it's worth a ton. It's not.
Well,
dad
it
gets
was.
half
What you
that.
could sell it for, not what a book
Yeah,
says.
exactly. And that was 20 years ago. People were willing to spend a lot of money, but those people have passed on. You know, like that market isn't there anymore.
And their
Like
debts
remember when
from
you used
buying
to
all those.
collect China? People like all these China sets and
Oh yeah, you go to the
dishes
country
and everything
you knock
else.
a bit out of the soil.
It's part of your it would
Not
always
anymore.
the set of China would be part of your what is that called?
Heritage.
Your heritage.
Heritage,
No,
but,
you mean
but
your
like
dowry.
your inheritance. That's
your
what
inheritance,
yes.
I see.
yeah. Like
Passed down from generation.
Yeah.
to
Hey, do
generation.
any one of you want to buy a Limoges fish platter?
I don't know
It's
what the hell that is.
It's one of those
Wow.
Limoges. So
be
Limoges
happy
was
you
this.
found out.
Well, Limoges is
gonna
like
sell
this
you on
French. Is this French
you want
French
to or
pottery
not?
ceramic manufactured during the early 20th, late 19th century? They used to make these fish platters that you served fish on, right? So it was shaped like a long, elongated
name.
plate. Oh, fish platter.
It feels
But
right.
it has ornate hand drawn and painted design on it. So it was more of a decorative plate. You would hang it on the wall, like over the doorway or something like that, to indicate that I guess you're fish eating or
You're
something.
so rich, you don't even need your fish platter for fish. You can just hang it on the wall.
Commemorative plates were a thing, and I have a bunch of them.
They still are. Yeah, I have
So
one
if any
somewhere.
I got a lot of them are Dutch. So if anyone wants some Dutch stuff, let me know.
You
I mean,
know,
the
I
Dutch-
kept using those X-Reel glasses yesterday after the show.
Yeah.
Not
And?
for work, but I just laid on the couch and watched the rest of Squid Game. I had like 3-4 episodes to finish. That was great. Just plug it into my phone,
Fun
lay
use
back,
case, huh?
big old screen. I actually
How
made
was-
the screen bigger and pushed it farther away than
Oh,
I
nice.
had when I
How
was
is the
watching
sound
it here.
quality with them?
Sound. I used the sound, the Bose sound. It was good. Yeah,
Nice.
I had no problems with the sound quality.
And you didn't have the eye fatigue because you were mentioning you had eye fatigue.
No,
before.
no, I didn't. Not when I was laid back watching it. I think because I made it bigger and farther away, and I wasn't trying to read stuff. Oh, I was reading captions, I guess, but yeah, no, that worked great. And the coolest thing was just Eileen came in and asked me about something, and I didn't have to like pause and take my earbuds out. Because it's just open air, I was able to just be like, "Oh yeah," like as if I was watching TV, right? Like just normal. I got up and did stuff. Like I
Oh,
walked out
nice.
in the backyard. It was a little harder to see in the bright sunlight, but it still worked. Like I was like, "Oh yeah, I could do some simple yard work while I was like watching a show." I fed Seven his dinner and didn't have to pause. Like, yeah, it was kind of cool.
That's actually great. I
kind of battery hit
I
did
walked
you
away
see
from
on it?
today's talk on TMS actually kind of excited about the damn thing.
Yeah, I wore them again on the morning stream this morning. Battery hit to the phone, Joe,
Yeah.
was noticeable.
Significant.
In watching 4 hours of Squid Game, I went from like 70% to 20% on my phone battery.
All right.
That's a pretty good suck.
Yeah, because it's basically powering an external monitor.
Yeah.
So but because I have an iPhone and I have the MagSafe, the Qi 2 MagSafe, I could charge while I watched, even though I was using the USB-C port.
That's pretty good.
I didn't do that, but I realized like, oh, I could. If it got to be an emergency, I could charge it.
Yeah. In a pinch, as the kids say.
Yeah, that's what the kids are always saying.
The kids are saying, in a pinch, I could be at that party.
Yeah,
Those
like,
kids.
whoa, you with your Gen Z slang.
All right? Exactly. These kids today. I'm telling you.
I also looked up the history of the word punch for you, Roger.
Oh,
wait,
was
the
that
drink?
because people
Like
used
the-
to punch each other then drink? And
Sadly, no. You know how these things go. Usually there's a reason everybody thinks is the reason, and then that turns out not to have any evidence that it's really the reason. The reason everyone says is that it's a Hindi word that means 5, and the original drink was made with 5 ingredients. However, there's no evidence that there was ever a drink called that in Hindi, and the word predates the British visiting India in English. So the best evidence is that there was an English word for a certain sized barrel that was used to transport alcohol on ships called a puncheon, and that it might be a shortened version of that.
A punchin'. Mm-hmm. Okay. I always learn something when I come on here. I don't know if you know that.
I'm sorry.
It's a real
A
shame.
game in the 80s, punch them.
Yeah.
So there you go, Roger. It's probably because of the barrel.
it's a barrel of laughter,
A barrel,
Barrel
of
of
punchin'.
punch.
a barrel
A
of
puncheon
tears.
barrel full of punch.
Yeah. Like you want.
I have. I think I'm going to plan out my future when I go back up to my mom's over
1
the
minute.
weekend. I'm going to hit every convenience store that I can as I gas up and buy lottery tickets because that's an investment in my future.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. That's what most financial advisors recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
on the
invest it
block.
with us. Don't index funds for suckers.
My
Mutual
broker
funds,
says the lottery.
and make sure you get the scratchers with the crossword puzzles. Those are fun.
This is not financial advice.
never financial advice for many of us.
30 seconds.
That's great.
How many times do you stop? I figure you only need to stop once on the way up.
Oh no, I have gas brake and then pee brake. Those are
so twice. So you get 2 lottery tickets out of that.
yeah.
Yeah, doubles your chances.
Yeah. See, I can either play the $30 one or the $2 one.
Oh, $30 one for sure.
Yeah, that's like your $7-10 million
bigger
jackpot.
returns. Yeah.
Look out, Ed Rod.
Spend money to make money, Roger.
Have a good show, everybody.
Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025 from Studio 7. I'm Tom Merritt.
Here in Salt Lake City, I'm Scott Johnson.
And from here, I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
DTNS Live is made possible by you. Thanks to everybody watching or listening. You include Philip Shane, Paul Boyer, D Laser, and brand new patron. Everybody welcome E-Rap.
E-Rap. Yay.
E-Rap is back.
Electronic rap.
Welcome to DTNS Live, the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little better and have a good time doing it. Scott Johnson, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I think I brought a little bug home from Vegas, but this little bug is going to lose the fight. It's going to lose the battle, and I'm going to win. So
not
take
like
that.
a praying mantis. You mean like a stomach bug?
Yeah, a little stomachy bug, little thing. It seems to be going around a little bit. Not so fun. But I had a great time in Las Vegas and saw some weird technology at the Deadmau5 concert.
Nice.
that I don't know
Yeah,
how to
what was that
describe.
like?
A lot of weird projection stuff and LED screen things that I didn't know people were doing. Stuff
The
built
LED
right
screen
into,
stuff at concerts is crazy these days, isn't it?
It's
Was it
gotten
packed?
wild. I don't go enough. Oh, it's very packed. And I have a solution. If you don't like crowds, here's my answer. Get all the way to the front and just don't look behind you. And you'll do great. It'll be fine.
What? So it was GA, general admission? You just walked all the way
well,
up to the front?
you had to have tickets. We ended up having somebody who got us in special tickets. But once
Yeah.
you got in there, there were UFC big shots sitting around. There were $20,000 booths you could rent. There were all these
Wow.
weird things inside.
But there wasn't assigned seats, it sounds like.
No.
It was-
The actual
that's
it was
that's what the
standing
kids
only.
call GA, general admission.
Is that what they're
So
calling
wait.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
And it was roped off the UFC, or did you know they were UFC because they were just big guys?
Or
Well,
did you have
the-
to fight them for your seat?
I could tell because A, there were a bunch of muscly dudes, but secondly, the one guy was the announcer. He was the guy you saw in the ring during the matches doing the announcing. So he was there. Looked real tired, that guy. And maybe it may have been because it was 3 a.m. I don't know, but
He was
it was
just
really
waiting
fun.
for the UFC to start. He's like, I'll just
Sure.
stay here. Watch
Sure,
Dead
we had a
Mouse.
really good time, and I'll tell you what. Stay at the what's it called? The TI. What's the TI?
Treasure Island?
Treasure Island. Geez, stay at the Treasure Island
Really?
because here are a couple of reasons. It's
Okay.
really nice. They've really improved it in there.
Okay,
And also,
all right, good to know.
one of the last casinos to have free parking. So there you go.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a rarity these days. It used to be free park everywhere. That was
yeah,
the
it's
thing.
annoying. So annoying. Now
Everything
it's 20
free,
bucks.
everything
everywhere.
costs money in Vegas. Vegas used to be free until they bilked you out of all your money gambling. That was
Yeah.
that was the trade-off. But enough people like me who didn't gamble went there, I guess, and now they have to charge for everything. So
I
it's
think
my
you
fault. I
are
apologize.
right on the money, and I am part of the problem as well. So there you have it.
Yeah. I don't. When I say I don't gamble, I just mean I don't gamble a lot. I don't have like a principle against it. I've gambled.
Sure.
I just kind of forget to do it. It's
Yeah,
not-
I'll go
it's
and
not
go. Hey,
important
I
to
do
me.
have this quarter. Gling, nothing
Yeah.
happened. All right, see
Right,
you guys at the pool.
yeah.
Like I just
Bye.
don't care.
Yeah. Well, should we let him in on this little secret about this show?
Oh,
A lot of people look at that title in the show and they think, how do they ever come up with that? And the answer is we steal it from you. So if you would like to donate your labor for us to steal and turn into a title, if you're watching or listening live, you can do it. Go to dtns.showbot.tv. Be emblazoned in fame by being able to say, I was the one who named that episode of Daily Tech News Show and no one else. Do it right now, and then at the end of the show, we'll check in and pick one of those titles. It's dtns.showbop.tv. All right, let's kick off the show with a few stories that caught our eye. Honor. It's not just for thieves. It's also the name of a cell phone company, and it just announced the Honor Magic V5, an 8.8 millimeter foldable phone, which it claims is the thinnest ever made. It is available in China for pre-orders now, shipping July 4th. Wait, it's China. Never mind. With other markets coming later this year, prices range from 8,999 to 10,999 RMB in US dollars. That equates to about 1,300 to 1,500 US dollars.
That means
foldable ever.
If I see you and it becomes really hot and we all end up getting honor phones, and then you don't have one, I can, like a Klingon, say you are without honor. When I see
That's
you.
right. Yes.
Can I bring it into court and say, Your Honor?
See, Roger's trying to bad joke me. I love it.
And then when it runs out of power, you can say it's a great day to die. Battery.
Or I was about to say you are without honor, but it's more
that was
without power.
Scott beat you to that one.
Yeah,
well, in any case, let's move on from this joke treadmill. Bloomberg sources say that Foxconn has ordered more than 300 of its Chinese employees to return home from its iPhone factories in India. These would be the bulk of Foxconn employees in India, with only Taiwanese support staff remaining. Apple suppliers, including Foxconn, have been increasing their manufacturing footprint in India in a bid to reduce reliance on Chinese manufacturing.
We should clarify that there are Indian employees there. The local people. It's not just a bunch of Taiwanese support staff. Like, I don't know how to make a phone. But the point being, all the Chinese employees that knew how to do this and were training the Indian employees to do it had to leave, and it's just the Taiwanese support staff left to train them.
It will be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming months and years.
Yeah, and also how much AI will have to do with it too, because you're going to see a lot of replacing of traditional support roles.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, well, this is manufacturing too, so it's
it's both,
and automation, robotics, and stuff. But it's not going to happen today. They're still going to have to figure out how to train these folks, for the foreseeable future. Scott, you might be interested in this one. Swiss-based company Keliops has purchased gaming news site Kotaku from Geo Media. Keliops acquired Gizmodo a year ago. So this Swiss-based company is building up a huge U.S. media presence. Kotaku staff's going to stay, and Keliops even says, you know what, we plan to hire more.
It's interesting. It's the vestiges of the old teams of sites that were all together back in the day, the Gawker Media Network or whatever. It all got fractured and segmented, and now it's being bought up again. I think Gizmodo and Kotaku are big catches anyway, so they've ended up with the two that are probably going to be, have some legs anyway.
Yeah.
Kotaku a little controversial these days in terms of some gamer sentiment, but for the most part, I think that's probably a good pickup for them, and I say good luck to them.
Publishing companies said something made it controversial with gamers these days. Seems to be a pretty, common thing.
It doesn't take much.
It might be hard for Kotaku to avoid that, but maybe they're over-indexing on it.
Sure. But I think that's good for them just to keep the engines running though, because people have been worried about that site for a while. So.
It's another example of publishing companies in the U.S. are always complaining that they need the government to step in and regulate them, while the more open market-oriented Swiss are able to come in and turn it into a profit and say, we can publish without needing government intervention.
Yep, and free chocolate with marshmallows.
He said ironically.
Yeah, he said ironically.
Yeah. Those are the top 3 stories that caught our eye today. Microsoft announced company-wide layoffs of less than 4% or close to 4%, depending, half glass, empty, half full sort of thing. It's about 9,000 workers, but the headlines are focusing on the cuts in the gaming sector. We're kind of gleaning what Microsoft is doing there. And again, I want to emphasize, there are cuts in all areas of Microsoft, but I think the gaming sector is getting the most attention for several reasons. One, gaming's just much more popular and people talk about it more. 2, Microsoft promised that when they acquired Blizzard, it would not mean reductions. And then so everyone wants to look every time they reduce something in the gaming area. But an internal memo says that they have shut down The Initiative, a U.S.-based studio, and canceled the reboot of Perfect Dark that studio was working on. Yep. Everwild from Rare is canceled. A bunch of other unnamed projects have been canceled. Bloomberg is saying Blackbird from ZeniMax. Forza Motorsport, not Forza Horizon, Forza Motorsport is losing half of its workforce. Windows Central says they are not canceling State of Decay 3, and none of the first-party games Microsoft showed off at the Xbox Game Showcase are affected. So there's good news and bad news here. But basically, the gaming sector of Microsoft doing the same thing that the rest of Microsoft has been doing, which is trying to get rid of middle management, streamline down, and have the people making the stuff talking directly to the executives more and not have as many middle layers.
Yeah, it's a lot like the rest of the business is going through similar machinations. But what's interesting here, a lot of people want to say that, well, Microsoft just spent $68 billion on a lot of these things. How dare they do this thing? Was it a mistake? Did they screw up? There was always this expectation that they would tighten the system. You don't need all the middle work when you're now under one roof in a lot of cases. In some cases, they're leaving things exactly as they are. They're not gutting Blizzard, as an example. They don't need to.
That's what they promised. They didn't say,
Right.
we'll never fire anyone in our company ever again. They said, if we buy Blizzard, we're not just going to go in and gut Blizzard, which they have not done.
They have not done at all. Now, it's a little bit of a double whammy on Rare, because their game Everwild, which we knew very little about, getting canceled is bummer enough. But the Initiative, who is not Rare, but are working on a historically rare property, which is Perfect Dark, was originally Rare, who made that back in the N64 days. That getting canceled, just a real stinkeroo for the legacy of Rare, and I'm bummed about all of that. The games themselves, here's the thing: games get canceled, started, worked on, and canceled all the time. Sometimes very in the open sunlight, being worked on and talked about and promoted, and then suddenly they're gone. Even Blizzard not immune to that. In fact, they're kind of famous for doing that. So that's not the hard bit here. The hard bit here is knowing that some of these are being canceled, not because the games aren't going to be good or whatever, or even good enough. It's because they need to, they need to shrink the base of employees. That is really the bottom line in some of these cases. Some of these are just overly fat ends of the stick that they purchased, and they're like, all right, time to pull it in. What can we let go? This is like any other business doing their thing. I'm not justifying it. I think it sucks. I think this industry could really, really use a boost from unions and other things. And we're seeing some of that happen, but it's a slow turning wheel. It's going to take a while, and it is sort of a bummer to see all this stuff go away.
I mean,
I was going to say this about Motorsport real quick. Sorry. Turn 10, who makes, you could say that Forza Motorsport is perhaps the most technically proficient car simulating game in the history of the genre. And yes, Gran Turismo people, I see you, I hear you, I understand. But there's something about those mainline Forza games. I think that's just a sign that nobody is as interested in hardcore simulation by the numbers as they used to be. And that's why the Horizon team hasn't been touched, because that is an unmitigated flowing stack of money and has been very successful, and happens to lean a little more arcadey while still retaining the Forza brand. So I would not get too worked up about that unless you were like super hardcore about the mainline Forza games, and you may still be okay. All they're doing is reducing staff there. So I just wanted to inject that one in there. Go ahead, Roger. I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh no, I was about to say, like, it's interesting, but all company acquisitions eventually lead to trimming out of the duplication of staffing, but also of internally of the not just management, just the internal roles, because oftentimes when you acquire, you tend not to shake things up too much, because you want to see how their processes work and then figure out what actually can be translated over with the least amount of friction. And then if there's anything left over, you can either try to replace them or find new spots for them, or just let them go, because that Blizzard Activision acquisition cost a tidy sum of money.
Yeah, and it also
I don't get the
changes
sense that the Blizzard Activision part of this has anything to do with this particular round of layoffs, though. This is a company-wide thing. Like, it is happening in the IT sector of Microsoft, as Mark was saying in the chat. It's happening in Azure. It's happening 9,000 workers are not coming out of the game studio. They are saying we have too much middle management. That's not a Blizzard thing where they got Blizzard and we're like, oh my gosh, middle management's too big. That's something unrelated. And it doesn't seem like Blizzard got hit by this.
No, Blizzard, Activision, King, that acquisition, which is really those three companies, they are relatively unscathed in this. And I think part of that is
feel like this is just the natural evolution of a company to say it's the second day of our fiscal year and it's time to reorg. That Microsoft does this every year. The fiscal year starts on July 1st and they reorganize. Now, sometimes when they reorganize, they don't have to lay off a bunch of people. But this year they're saying there are a bunch of parts of this company that aren't generating revenue. They're losing us money. And I know that the meme is this is a greedy company just trying to milk more money out of everybody, but it's also a company that can't continue to lose money and pay people. And so your mileage may vary whether they drew the line equitably or not. But the fact that a company has to cut back because it's not selling as much on certain things and put more money into the things that are selling well, that's the way anybody runs anything, incling your own family, right?
No, you're absolutely right.
You know, that's not a big business thing. Yeah.
The one surprised me. One little surprise is nobody really knew ZeniMax Online Studios, other than maybe a few people knew, and certainly Jason Schreier knew about this. But they were working on an MMO that nobody knew about. These are the guys behind Elder Scrolls Online. It was part of a whole other acquisition to get Bethesda, Softworks, and everything underneath it. That's where ZeniMax Online Studios resides. I didn't know they were working on a new MMO, but think about it. They're already coming over with a relatively successful one, Elder Scrolls Online, still running, still doing well, and World of Warcraft, the world's biggest, most well-known MMO. And why would they have a third one that's cannibalizing those two potential success areas? Some of this just makes sense to me that they would be canceling.
I'm sure they probably had that as a hedge just in case they didn't get the Activision Blizzard deal through, and they just like, well, we should have something in the hopper just in case. I mean, oftentimes companies make bets and they oftentimes make investments on the off chance something doesn't work out because, you know, in a very competitive business, you need to have something ready to go. You just can't like, oh, it didn't work out, let's start from scratch. You need to get something so at least there's some sort of, you know, there isn't a sudden transition over. There's like, okay, plan A didn't work, we can go to plan B. Plan B didn't work out, we have plan C. And unfortunately, some of those people
it's good news that State of Decay 3 not getting canceled is interesting that they made a point of bringing that one up. And the reason I think that's interesting is because a lot of people have been worried about that game because when they announced that it was happening, people got excited. State of Decay 1 and 2 are very popular. And then we've heard nothing, just silence at every event, every presentation, nothing 2 weeks ago when they were showing off all their hot stuff. So there was some concern just aside from all of this that they were going to drop that IP. So the fact that they're not, and that's still going well, is good. Everything they showed at the recent events, all that first party stuff, including Clockwork Revolution, is coming. That was a big stunner at this year's event, or this year's Summer Game Fest. Phil Spencer has an interesting role, though. He has to somehow make this PR work where you say nothing, it's never been better here at Microsoft. Gamers, we've heard you, all that usual PR talk. He has to do that, but then he also has to do all this other stuff and make it sound like it fits, even though over here it sounds like we're doing great and the future is bright, and over here we have to make adjustments that make it seem to the average gamer like the future isn't bright. It's a complicated relationship between those two realities.
Well, I also have a complicated relationship of a different sort, Scott. If I may transition to mourning my CalDigit dock.
Oh, look at that
CalDigit.
Yeah. It served me well for many years after my previous CalDigit dock also died. I have not had success reviving it. Please do send your email that says, oh, well, I'm pretty sure what you need to do is X. And if I have not already tried that, I will give it a try. But I have tried everything that I could figure out, and it just ain't coming back. It's out of warranty. It's old. So I've been getting by with my USB-C ports, an old dongle that I originally bought just to have an SD card, but it has a couple of USB-A slots. So I've been using that. but I'm also running out of ports. Sometimes when I wanted to try out the X-Real glasses on the show yesterday, I had to do a little creative work to try to figure out how to get ports. So I went around and found a wire cutter recommendation for a USB-C adapter from Base US that is, I think, going to give me everything I need. And because it's a little thing and not this big thing, this CalDigit needed to be plugged into electricity. This Base US does not. I can take this with me.
Port. Yeah.
Yeah. It's powered on the port, and I could throw it in a bag and go on the road with it. So I thought it'd be interesting to compare notes on our port usage and our dock and dongle strategy. I'm still using that Anchor USB-C to USB-A for a couple of USB-A things that I have because it's like there and it's like, why unplug it? But this Base US is going to give me 2 HDMI ports, a powered USB-C port, 2 USB-A ports, a USB-C port, and another USB-A port, as well as the SD card slots, mini and big one. And here's the kicker, an Ethernet port.
Whoa. What?
Yeah.
Jeez, wild.
So right now I'm using an Ethernet to USB-C adapter.
Yep.
I can replace that, in fact, I did it this morning to test it and it worked. I can plug in the Ethernet port and then still have all these other ports on there. I think this is what I'm going to do. So I will have my camera plugged into one USB-C port because the camera tends to drop frames if it goes through a hub. So I'm going to have that one direct. Yep. Then I'll have my Ethernet, my Rodecaster, my Stream Deck, and all of that on this. Mm-hmm. And then I have that other USB-A port for things that are less mission critical, like an extra camera or something like that.
Sure.
I figured it would be fun to compare dongle stories, though. Roger, yes. What kind of hubs, docking stations, dongles do you use?
I am all about dongles. It reminds me of college. So one of the things that I found out is I actually looked at getting a Dell Thunderbolt 4 dock for my laptop, and one of the reasons why was it would allow me to basically use one port on my laptop for everything. I could charge it, I could run a monitor off of it, I could have Ethernet, I could have audio. It would all be one simple plug, and I wouldn't have to worry about anything. What I found out was that a lot of those docks are also basically small computers, and they require regular firmware updates if there are any sort of incompatibilities. And at the time, it was like $120. So I decided, well, I don't want to spend $120 and deal with that headache. So I invested in a lot of these little USB-C to USB-A adapters. And then I got a USB-C to...
It's USB-A to USB-C, right?
Exactly. Oh, no, USB-C to USB-A, because all my devices
it is. It's USB-C on one end. Oh, and then into USB-A. I got you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
okay,
then
thanks.
I had an old USB-A 3.0 hub, and I plugged that into there, and that's how I keep all my input devices. And then I have a separate USB-C to DisplayPort cable, which is just a cable, and it powers the monitor. And it works great. The only thing I miss
is because your monitor doesn't have USB-C or Thunderbolt?
It does, but in case I go like, for example, when I go up to my mom's place, the monitor I have set up there doesn't have USB.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I plug straight into it for DisplayPort.
You've always got
so I always have something. But the idea is that I have a bunch of these. They're very inexpensive, and I can then pre-position them where I need them, and then I don't have to worry about it. And I'm not it's still under like $40 total.
Yeah, you know what? I need to get a couple. I have a bunch of, and this is why I had the confusion and had to ask you. I have a bunch of USB-A to USB-C because that's really all I needed for years. And I bought these little Anchor ones that just kind of slot over the edge, so they're not even a wire. They're great, but I'm finding I need the opposite more often. So I'm probably going to buy some of these that you talked about because I am often running into things that have USB-C ports, but I still have an old USB-A cord. Yeah.
Two of these were $7. I mean, Amazon about a week ago, $2 or $2, 2 for $7. And they work great. Full speed.
Those exact same ones. They are good. Very good stuff.
And the thing that makes this all possible is USB 4, right? Because USB 4, depending on your device, MacBooks generally across the board are really good about this. But even, PC laptops within the past 4 or 5 years, USB 4 supports DisplayPort, so you can run a monitor off of it, and in some cases supports charging, so you can charge a phone or another USB-C device off of that as well. So it's really flexible. You get like 85% of the Thunderbolt 4 functionality, but without the Thunderbolt 4 cost.
Right. Yeah, it's actually, that's the big key here, I think, is where we're heading into a happier place, even though I've got a bit of a rat's nest. I'll talk about a couple of things here in a second. But USB 4/Thunderbolt, the bandwidth available to us now in this particular I/O technology is so decades beyond where we were decades ago.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so fast. And you're doing all of this computing and all of this data swapping in real time without much interference. Tom's right about cameras are best if they're direct. I found that exact same thing with multiple setups. But for the most part, when you're talking network, mouse and keyboard, obviously, other kinds of devices, switchers, this other stuff that run off hubs, it's all hanging out and talking to each other just fine. Just not really an issue. You got mixers going in there and sound being converted from analog to digital, and somehow it's all managing that. And to think that, we used to have to, I don't know what we used to have to do. It used to be a nightmare. This sort of thing just didn't work. In my case, I've got, like I said, a bit of a rat's nest. I have a manual switcher for ISPs, so I have a couple of different ISPs coming in via 10BASE-T Ethernet ports, and I can switch between them if one's down or whatever.
Interesting. Okay, so you throw the manual switch when you need to switch
couple
your
of
ISP.
them, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also have that. I have a manual switch and a software option for my PC to Mac, so I can just run on the same keyboard and Mac or mouse. I have two. I don't know why I have two. I need to go rethink this because I may be doubling up on something I don't need to. But I have two HDMI switchers for various monitors to do various things at different times for different scenarios. And then a whole bunch of USB/USB-C type stuff with a bunch of these adapters, kind of like Roger showed, to make it all work. It's kind of ugly, right? Like, this is not a pretty situation. I could probably tighten a bunch of this up, but I think this is fine. I'm okay with this world. It's all right.
This is the thing. I'll be honest. It's a rat's nest. It's a rat's nest on my desk.
It's always going to be a rat's nest, no matter what you do.
Exactly. Yeah. But this is the important thing. It's super flexible, and these adapters are so cheap. I can have a lot of them, right? So on hand, really, I just need a notebook with at least 2 free USB-C ports, which I do, and then I actually have a very similar hub to what Tom has. It looks very similar. It's just by a different manufacturer. Sure, they're all the same, but
it works. The same factory.
It works really well. It has HDMI at the end, which I haven't. I know it works, but I don't use it regularly. But it is very convenient, and it was like $14. Like you don't have to spend a lot, and the functionality I get, again, it's like 85% of what you would get with a Thunderbolt dock. But the only thing I'm really missing is the ability to charge my laptop off of those, and even then it's like, realistically that one plug doesn't add that much. Now if I lost my power brick to my laptop, I could conceivably I would get one of these because it charged my laptop, but honestly I'm not that clumsy.
We're hurtling toward a thing
that reminds me real quick, somebody had asked what about power, and it may have gone by you, but there is on the hub that I got, the base US, there is a 100 watt power directed USB-C port. So you can use this to put power into your laptop, therefore saving you a port. So you don't have to have a separate one.
Yeah, and it'll charge all that stuff.
So look for that power. Look for the power direct version if you want that in the.
And praise be to USB 4 at least, or Thunderbolt 3
and
above, because that's what allows you to do that, right?
To do all of this,
If you're on USB 3, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say we're heading toward. You know how you watch Blade Runner and you think, oh man, the AI or the implants or all the scary stuff, right?
But
what I think about are the weird little shops along the road. And you'll see Deckard pass something that looks like an electronics shop. And you go in there, and everything's just got wires by the billions, and everything's connected by little boxes and everything. That's where we're headed, I think. And it's okay, because I have some flexibility. It's complicated, but only in the messy sense. Like, I could clean all this up, but I have so many options if I need to move something around. Whereas a single hub to do everything, you're kind of stuck. Well, and they break, and one breaks, everything breaks. So I kind of like having this array.
And the hubs are designed to be set and forget, right? You plug it into a workstation, so when you go there, you plug in the one cable and you're done.
Yeah.
But my life isn't like that, for good or for ill. But it's super convenient. Honestly, I have not felt the need to upgrade to a dock as of yet.
Good.
I wanted to show this is the Anchor USB-A to USB-C. Or it was.
I have a lot of those laying around too. Probably too many. And this is what happens.
Very
They
small.
fall. They fall
Yeah.
all the time.
I put the link in the doc, but
Oh no, he meant the dock, like the rundown, not the CalDigit dock.
Yeah, not the
document.
doc.
Oh my god, that's so hilarious. Be careful; they're very small, but
Mm.
yes, it's just that big. Wow, that's
nice.
so funny.
Yeah, you lose those real easy. That's like
Yeah.
it's like micro
No, I found
SDs. They're terrible.
Yeah, there. So
There you
it's
go.
you put it over the edge, over the end of your USB-A cable, and it's not like a big old dongle hanging out, right? And it's thin enough that it'll just go into a USB-C port and it won't stop you from plugging into the other ports.
Yep.
I have not found one that goes the other way this size.
You can definitely get
USB-A
them,
to
but
C.
you're right that they're
Yeah.
more common that way.
And they tend to be little hubs, right? They're the ones that have USB-A plug, and then they end out with a two USB-C and two USB.
Yeah, sometimes they split, but like the ones Tom is talking about, they're becoming more and more common. They go both ways if you can just find the other.
Yeah,
It's hard.
and these
sometimes.
are 2-pack for $10 usually, so they're not crazy expensive either.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know, folks. If you have feedback about the dongles you use or questions about this, you can email us, of course, but you can also get in touch with us on the social networks. We are at DTNS Show on X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. And on TikTok and YouTube, you can find us at Daily Tech News Show. CNET's Sean Booker sat down with Sony PlayStation and AMD execs to talk about their collaborations for the future, talk about Project Amethyst, but also, maybe get some hints on future platforms from PS5. You should go read that. It's a great interview, great article. Scott, you took a look at it. Give us your impression of what Sony revealed and what it didn't.
Well, here's the good news. If you guys are sick of all these Microsoft machinations of the last month and a half, because there's been a lot. Now we're talking about Sony. And it's interesting. We're talking about Sony and their deal with AMD. Turns out console makers like working with AMD. So both are going to continue into the future. What's interesting here is we get to hear about something called Project Amethyst, like the precious gem, as an example. Anyway, this is focusing on integrating machine learning directly into the console architecture to boost visuals, performance, AI-driven gameplay across platforms. You might say, is this going to be like a patch or a firmware update to the PlayStation 5? Unfortunately, no. But it does go to some backwards compatibility assurances for PS5 games moving forward. So that's sort of interesting. But these are the AI features they're talking about. It encompasses real-time AI for upscaling, aka SR4 AMD technology, which is a lot like DLSS tech that you see in the NVIDIA side of things. This is frame generation, and they will do this via machine learning and ray tracing support through path tracing and ray generation techniques. All of that means better lighting if you're trying to simplify what they're trying to do with ray tracing and ray pathing. Here's the thing, though. What's interesting about this is not them going, our next generation hardware is going to be insane. What they're saying is their next generation hardware is going to be capable of using these new AI technologies to upscale everything and improve the look of everything. Now, this is good news for Sony and for their manufacturing pipeline, because it means these are going to be potentially less expensive to build these machines. Whether that savings gets passed on to the user is a whole other issue. We probably won't know until the PS6 gets announced, but it could mean that as well. And that's what's kind of cool about these technologies. Since their advent, these things come along and make it so that these features, which are normally 100% hardware dependent features, so you're locked in. Whatever it is it shipped with, well, that's as good as it's going to get. 6 months when PCs do it better, well, too bad. Your PlayStation PlayStation 2, we'll use that as an example, was stuck with whatever capacity it was born with. And machine learning and AI upscaling and all of its machinations means better and now and later and cheaper on the manufacturing front. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about why some of that is interesting in other areas, not just gaming, but other places we could see big improvements, where the hardware doesn't have to change that much, but what the hardware is doing and learning about itself and therefore presenting is better. And first one that came to my mind is surveillance equipment. Your Ring doorbell camera, I think, in the next year or so, is going to be very, very good at giving you 8K resolution out of cameras that maybe are only sensing 4 at the most, 1080p maybe even, because they're going to upscale and improve. Basically, we're in the zoom and enhance generation that we all were told in the 80s existed but didn't. I think we're entering that. And I was curious, Tom, do you have anything you think that would be directly affected that way?
No, that's interesting. The surveillance thing is interesting because it's good enough for the home, right? If I'm doing 3-letter agency level work, I want to literally zoom and enhance, and something that's upscaling could introduce artifacts that lead me to conclude the wrong thing. And if lives are on the line, that's bad. Right. But if it's just, is that my package or not? and can I tell if it came from UPS and the upscaling lets me do that? Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, a little bit of fudging on stuff is good. It's also just, I think with that kind of stuff, more about the pleasantness of the experience, right? When you see a fuzzy thing, you're like, this just doesn't look very good. My doorbell camera sucks. Right. But if it's nice and crisp, then you think your doorbell camera is better and you're more satisfied with the product.
And you could pinch and zoom potentially on this stuff and go, I can see up close. This is, to me, my name's on there. I better get home and grab that before somebody else does.
As long as the upscaling did it right, you know,
well,
that's where it becomes
that's
an
a big,
issue.
the key with all this, including the games, is it needs to be good at it. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the great thing about the AI-powered frame generation is you can do it so it's more than just upscaling, because you do have the raw calculations, and it will have a much more concrete base in order to kind of extrapolate what the next frame is going to look like. Now, I know there's a lot of complaints with the current NVIDIA crop of frame generation, where people are saying like they're generating limbs that between two frames that don't exist in the actual gameplay.
Definitely happens.
But the great thing, and what you were mentioning, Scott, is that the AI allows you to do and improve on things without necessarily having the customer invest in new hardware, which has always been kind of the crux of the issue, right? If back in the 8, 16, 32-bit generation, you got your console, you're kind of stuck with it, unless you pull the Sega and then you had an adapter that went into the the 32X that went into the Genesis. But you also do open the pathway to potentially cloud-based AI, where you can do things like game strategy or game logic and have it offloaded into the cloud, especially if it's not something that's demanded real time, like say it's a strategy game or something like chess, where, hey, I just need to figure out the next 100 moves ahead of you.
Yeah.
And so
at what point does the ability for a model to render lifelike and convincing movement become more efficient than rendering visuals based on instructions telling you to render those visuals, right?
I see what you mean, yeah.
In my head, you could just have prompts coming, when you're talking about cloud gaming, Roger, you could have a prompt from your computer that says, Roger wants to move to the right. And then the model says, oh, well, if you move to the right, it would look like this. And then sends that back down, versus Roger wants to move to the right. Now we must look at the ray tracing tables and, the programming and figure out like, okay, when he moves to the right, it changes these variables and these polygons, et cetera, et cetera. Right. The question, on one end is, can it do that with replicability so that when Roger moves right, it always shows what would happen when you move right?
Like don't sprout a third leg.
Sure, exactly. Those are really good question. I think where we are headed, we're not there yet, but we're headed to a place where that predictiveness it's basically what you're talking about, is its ability to predict. And they've done it in other ways. I remember one of the big things with the now gone Stadia service by Google. But at the time, one of the selling points was the controllers were using an advanced model that could predict movement. Yeah. And it wasn't like, I think he's going to move left in 10 minutes. That's not what it did. No. But what it did was movement was easier to predict based on current behavior and all behavior that it had been trained on. And so what that translated to pretty well in my experience with Stadia was a much faster response time on your controller. You were getting better, less lag, less latency with a service that was purely being streamed to you. So that's just one example of it. In this particular case, Tom's point, Ron, Tom,
That's
John,
me.
Paul, all these people
I'm
we have
all
here.
over
John,
those.
Tom.
Yeah.
To your point, though, the idea, you see somebody do pre-renders with like VO or some of these newer AI video generators. We're not that far from that. Those things have ray tracing in them. They're not real-time ray tracing light sources, but they're rendered in from prompts. And what we're talking about is this thing moving so lightning fast with the help of offload and local that in theory, we're no longer graphically rendering anything. We're graphically rendering. I mean, it's kind of the same to the user, but it's not assembling polygonal data.
Yeah,
Instead,
it doesn't
it's
have
saying,
to do the same amount of
Right.
calculations, right?
Right.
Although, oddly, you're using the same hardware,
Right.
Because you're using NVIDIA to do the AI model calculations
Well,
as well as the polygon ones.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
it's also a tacit, that's not approval,
Acceptance?
acceptance that the hardware, like Sony doesn't have enough deep in pockets to kind of iterate on hardware on such a frequency in order to keep up with all the developments. They have basically carved out every 6-7 years we can do this. Within that time frame, how can we stretch the hardware to span that gap so the players never feel that they're missing out and they stay on the platform?
Yeah, it is.
Right,
It is the golden gun if they can get it. It's true.
Because I mean, it's an understanding that this arms race of doing ever more complicated hardware is just too darn expensive, right? At some point, you're just going to run out of money, or more importantly, the customer base won't pay for it because it's too expensive. But
Right.
you
Yeah.
still want to provide that same level of
But
experience.
today is not that day
No.
because our next topic is that people are buying the most expensive graphics cards that they can get. According to recent sales from a German retailer called mindfactory.de, upgraders are passing by 8 gigabyte GPUs and dropping bucks or euros on the 16 gigabyte version. Roger, you've been looking at this story. Tell us more about it.
Tom's Hardware did this from the numbers that they pulled from Tech Support, and what they noticed was Mind Factory actually makes its sales numbers available publicly. And what they noticed was at least the customers to that particular store preferred the 16 gigabyte version of the RTX 5060 Ti. It's sort of a mid-budget range card in the scale of the 50 series to the 8 gigabyte version by over 1,600%.
That's a lot.
It's
That's
a
not
lot.
like, oh, a few more are buying this. That's like how that's like
Whole lot.
16 for every one.
Yeah, essentially, yes. And so the thing to understand is these cards were not restrained by availability. It's not like, they only had 60 gig.
Yeah, they didn't have. They had a choice. They
They
could have
had a
bodied
choice,
them.
and there were no restrictions. That they say if you bought this, you had to get no. It's just the only difference was the price that for the 16 gig was more than the 8 gig, and people still bought it.
Yeah.
Now it wasn't just limited to NVIDIA cards because they also noticed that 16 gigabyte Radeon cards also showed the same thing, outselling their 8 gigabyte stablemates by 3,000%.
That's
So
like 30
times.
for everyone. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, that's
Jeez.
crazy.
So, and what this really shows is that if you want to do 4K, because if 4K is your holy grail of gaming, 1080p is what people used to do 8 years ago. You need at least 16 gigabytes because you need that much VRAM to hold the buffer. But it's not just that, right? If you want to do LLM work, you want to run an LLM locally, and you do something where you run it on the GPU. I mean, Will Smith has talked about this. The bare minimum you want is 16 gigabytes, ideally 24 or more. So oftentimes when you go and frequent the LLM forums, either on Reddit or on their own special page, people are also like, yeah, you want like a 5090 or a 5080 because you want 24 gigabytes or more, because that's how much you need to squeeze into that. You have to run that LLM off the VRAM on that GPU. But it's not just that. If you're doing VFX work and you want to accelerate some of the calculations, again, more frame buffer is better because you can keep that entire image and it's not having to transfer it across the PCI bus, constantly slowing your workflow. So it is definitely like 16 gigabytes or bust. I have noticed that. I've noticed like all the laptops with 12 or more gigabytes of VRAM, even if they aren't the highest spec GPUs, people are going for because they need that space, whether they're running LMs or doing something else that requires a large frame buffer.
Yeah, a code herder is saying, yeah, I ran out of video RAM on some newer games with an older 8 gigabyte card. And I think that's probably the basis of this, is people realizing like, I've got 8 gigabytes. It's not enough. I need 16. But then the other things you mentioned about AI and video effects processing, you know, they help make that go from like 5 for everyone to 16 or 30 for everyone.
I mean, it's weird to think of how quickly GPUs from when they aftermarket GPUs were like a hot thing in the late 90s all the way through the 2000s. And by the 2010s, Adobe kind of glommed on. NVIDIA had CUDA out. So everyone was like, I can use GPUs for GPU, general purpose computing on the GPU. It exploded. It just exploded because now, like, hey, great, I can run LLM models off this as well. I want to play with it. I want to run something locally because it's more secure. I want to do a bunch of testing because I want to create my own apps. I want to create my own.
And you're talking about, when you're talking about numbers, this is something that's self-selecting. But when you're talking about people who go to Mind Factory to buy stuff, these are people who are more likely to do their own stuff like that.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
You're not talking about just the general purpose users. Like, I just need it for email. These are builders and creators and people who like to tweak stuff.
And as much as people balk at the new prices or the prices for RTX 5090s, that's still cheap compared to like the RTX Pro variants, which used to be Quadros, when they changed the name, but the equivalent from Radeon as well. It's super cheap, right? $3,000 to invest in a server that you're going to build a business off of. That's like chump change. Now, if you're a gamer, that sucks because that's a lot of money to play a video game. But
when you're building a business on it, you're going to make that $3,000 back theoretically,
exactly,
right? When you're a gamer, you're going to spend that $3,000 on other games. So it's a totally different thing. Yeah.
But it also shows how much of the GPU market has now swung away from the enthusiast gamer sort of market, which now makes up a subset of the market to more professionally oriented people, whether you're doing
Has it swung, or is it just they're all going that direction? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that it's swung away. I think there's a lot of gamers still buying these things, or else you wouldn't have 16 to 1.
You definitely have gamers buying it, but like when NVIDIA is making these cards, they're looking at like, how do we get this to appease the new kind of 500 gorilla in the market, which is that people want to run LLMs, people want to do some sort of machine learning. Our products are perfect for that. Let's make sure we tweak it so those people are happy, because those people are probably going to buy more as they upscale their business or they upscale their research.
And the person who wants to play games at the top level needs the 16 gigs anyway, so they're going to sell even more of
it. Right,
yeah.
That's absolutely right. And I also just think there's an automatic knee-jerk thing with gamers, with PC enthusiasts, even those that really know their stuff. They see 8 and 16. 16 just sounds better, so they get the higher one. And if it was 32, they'd go for that.
Right?
Yeah.
When it was 4 and 8 always sound better. But you didn't see 8 outsell 4 at the level that you're seeing 16 outsell 8. So I think what Roger's explaining is it's different now. We've got a whole bunch more uses.
You have, before you could blame crypto miners, like, they're buying all their GPUs. But we've moved away from that to other lucrative business or potentially lucrative businesses.
Yeah. And crypto miners tend to go for more specialized machinery these days. Yeah, they go for ASICs still. Although that has also swung back as these graphics cards have gotten more powerful, that you see more crypto guys going, maybe I should get an RTX. Yeah.
This is the thing. GPUs are no longer just about awesome visuals on your computer as you play some first-person shooter. It's about doing and creating wealth, or in some cases, even staggering amounts of wealth through LLMs and perhaps a business model.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's finish up with the mailbag. Tony wrote in. Hey, thanks, Tony. Good to see you again. I tried using Gemini to give me a trip itinerary to Tokyo/Kyoto/Osaka, or the Kansai prefecture, you might say, a couple of years ago, and it's been very helpful. I gave it a prompt to give me an itinerary that's kid-friendly for a 7-year-old girl. I also included prompts like how I'd like to travel, avoid hot times of the day. It was able to give me a pretty good itinerary. One thing that was a miss on Gemini's part was recommending me to go to the robot restaurant in Tokyo, but the AI didn't know it was closed because of COVID at the time. I guess Gemini didn't have access to Google Maps, which had the restaurant labeled as temporarily closed at the time. Tony wasn't the only one to write in and go, oh, you can do folders in ChatGPT. You can do similar things in Claude and then say, work on a project for me and kind of wall it off. So you wouldn't have to use one of these other tools, but these other tools, are specialized for this. So maybe you don't have to do as much work to make them output a good itinerary.
Yeah. You're starting to see all these turn into little tool bags and how you organize them. It's not as simple as not the negative connotation. If you're such a tool bag, I don't mean like that. But the way you use your AI tools and how you want to organize what you've done and keep things that are crucial and get rid of stuff that was just a quick question. The more they organize that, the better they make it, the more likely I am to use their model, weirdly. So
I mean, in a weird way, a lot of these models do a lot of the kind of grunt work where you used to have maybe a physical assistant, but you always felt like you were underusing them because you said, hey, can you make an appointment for my haircut, or I need to talk to the landlord about expanding our lease or anything like now you can just do this for me and I can get it, and then I can have my assistant do something a little more formative or important besides doing well, I mean, I remember I used to have, I feel bad because I used to have interns I really need to cross-check this with the local NBC affiliate because they were running our content on their channel, and I just wanted to make sure that they got it and they ran it. And it's hey, can you just check up with them? And it wasn't a problem, but it wasn't a great use of their time because it seemed like such small potatoes, even though it was important. It's something that, an AI could do very easily.
Yeah. Well, folks, whether you are an AI model or not, you can send us a comment, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, or follow us on Patreon. You don't even have to pay for a membership to follow us on Patreon, and then you can comment on stuff at patreon.com/DTNS. Scott Johnson, always a pleasure. What you got going on these days?
Well, I have a really cool thing going on right now, a new weekly, first season anyway, of a show we call The Medical Show, and it's a chance to talk about medicine and healthcare in our modern world, in particular here in the States, and all of the challenges that are there, all the good things that are there, the myths that deserve a little busting, that sort of thing. And I do it with Dr. Jerry Tolbert, an actual 20-year experienced physician who really knows his stuff. And I don't. So it's a great place for me to ask a guy who knows this stuff and clear up a few things for you.
You just don't know his stuff.
I don't know his stuff at all. But it's fun finding out, and you'll have fun too, I think. We're really having a good time with it. We have a new episode coming out later this evening. So go get subbed up now if you haven't already. That's at themedical.show or wherever you get your shows.
And now it is time to name that show. Yeah, let's check in. DTNS.showbot.tv. The top vote getter from Stealth Dave is Living La Vida Dongle.
I love it. I love it. And it's because I love the word La Vida for some reason.
Do you? You love the word La Vida? Yeah.
Remember
That's
that
one of your
movie?
Favorite Spanish word?
It's remember Mi Vida Loca, that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since then, there's something about it, like Vida. It's very like Vida. It's
It
like
could also be
Sony-
your favorite
Sony
Italian
Vida.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the Vida, and I thought they misspelled Vida because, the Sony Life.
You're like,
that
but
would
it's-
actually be a
it's
perfect name for it. But.
La Vida Loca.
Yeah.
E. Clay Thomason suggested praise be to USB-C.
Whoa, I
Actually,
like
USB
that.
4, but it didn't
USB
rhyme,
4.
so he had to go USB-C. I get it. It's a little poetic license. Are you without honor from Ken Otafian? A lot of dongles in here. Dongle
Yes.
life, dongle talk, doggles, and more doggles.
Dongle Talk. That sounds like a great podcast, wouldn't it? Welcome
Is
to Dongle
it?
Talk.
Welcome to Dongle Talk.
I'm your dongle master,
Let's-
Tom Merritt.
Let's workshop
okay.
that one a little.
All
Make
right.
sure that we're not getting ourselves in a. Yeah, I know where your head's at though. Comparing dongles. Nick with a C. I see what you did there.
I'm amazed no one put in Dongle Geddon.
Oh, yeah. We got
Right?
Dongle Boogie from Batfink.
I love a little disco.
Dongle Boogie. The zoom and enhance generation. But I think it's clear we have to go with Living La Vida Dongle.
That's pretty good.
That
I'm going to
is
start a magazine.
definitely-
I'm going to start an
Yeah.
upper crust magazine called Doc and Dongle.
Ooh, you know what?
Dongle.
It could be like
That's a pub name too.
Yeah,
G,
it's not
it
bad.
could be like a GQ mag for like Gen Z.
Yeah,
We should
they'll love it.
start-
Dongle.
I was thinking more like we should start a pub that had like lots of adapters available behind the bar.
I like it.
You know what?
Sign me up. Yeah.
What do you call a gastro pub without the alcohol? Is that just a restaurant?
It's just, yeah, it's a bistro, I think.
That's
yeah.
just a
Oh,
place
is
to
it?
eat.
A bistro.
Yeah. Yeah, something
Handles
like
like a bistro, but it feels like a steakhouse.
There you go.
that. Big thanks to everybody who supports us in all the myriad ways you can. We had folks watching us on LinkedIn today asking questions that we talked about. We had Forgotten Wolf gave us a $10 super sticker, said, "Love you, longtime viewer," yesterday, right as we were ending the stream. So I didn't want Forgotten Wolf to be forgotten. So thank you, Forgotten Wolf, for that. Thanks for everybody on Twitch who supports us every day. Oh my gosh, we have An Oblong Life just followed us. Welcome, An Oblong Life. Zoe Brings Bacon with some bits. PC Milesy with some bits. Psycho Motors back for the 58th month. Corey T gave us a follow as well. Thanks everybody for supporting us in all the ways you can, including patreon.com/DTNS. And don't forget, if you are watching us on the YouTube live stream, do us a little favor and click on that like button. Do you smash it? Do you smash the like button these days?
Smash it like a burger.
Do you ring the bell? Is that what the kids say? I don't know. Whatever it is, do it.
Please.
And help us because it helps other people know to watch the show. The algorithm goes, oh, a lot of people smashed that bell button. Never say that. Never say that.
No, never
Especially
do
at a hotel.
Don't do that.
Don't smash that.
Yeah.
Don't smash that.
But if I haven't put you off already, please subscribe to our channel. We need more subscribers as well. You can watch us live Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC. Find out more about that at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back tomorrow. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.